How are you doing, green industry business leaders? This is episode number 11 of the Green Industry Profits podcast, where we talk about how green industry companies can grow in a profitable way. In today's episode, we had a conversation with Aiden Silvers of Green Marketing. We dive into the ROI companies should be getting on marketing, what to look for when picking a marketing company, what marketing platforms to utilize, word of mouth versus spending funds on marketing, and much more. And before we dive into this episode, just a quick note that this podcast is brought to you by Cycle CPA, a remote accounting firm that works specifically with green industry businesses. For more information, go to cyclecpa.com. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. All right, super excited for this episode. We have Aiden Silvers here with Green Marketing. Some of you, if you're in our Facebook group, you probably have seen him share some of his thoughts and advice with the community. And I have to say, as you know, with knowing a lot of vendors within the green industry, I think all clients and people that I come across that work with green marketing and Aiden, I always have great things to say. So I'm really excited to hear all the marketing updates and really look at things from more of a marketing perspective today here in this episode. But Aiden, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you, Joe. It's been a little while since we've connected. I hope everybody's well. I hope you're well with your new family member there. What a blessing for that. And yeah, everything's been pretty good on this side. Unfortunately, no real marketing updates besides do the same stuff that I've been telling you to do. And people don't want to listen. So, but I guess we'll dive into that a bit deeper here.
Yeah. Oh, awesome, Aiden. And um, yeah, and I guess if you don't mind, just maybe starting with just your background, how you got into marketing and focusing within the green industry and kind of going
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah. Well, to keep it short, I'm the CEO and COO of Green Marketing. So that means I'm the visionary, the leader, right? The executive officer. And then I'm the operations officer as well. So I build all the systems, I build all the workflows. I'm the one who tells the teams how to do X, Y, and Z from a procedural perspective, right? Here's how you lay sod. Here's how you put the pavers in order. Here's how you mow the grass at a certain height. All these details and nuances. Compare that to the marketing realm. I build all of that for our staff, and that's what I love to do. I'm an operations guy. I like making a system or a workflow that produces a result, right? So the result that you guys say of Aiden, get me leads or make me money or whatever, that doesn't just happen, right? It's like we have to have a very specific process in that, and it needs to be unique. Otherwise, why would you pay us instead of somebody else doing it for cheaper, right? So, that's a little bit about what I do, who I am. Green Marketing is my agency. We have 11 full-time staff right now. We are in the niche of landscaping. So 90% of our clientele are in the niche or in the industry. And we understand all the ins and outs of what you guys go through every day, all the nuances, the pain points, etc. And we built programs that resolve these pain points, right? And because it's a niche and because it's very narrow, we were able to get very strategic about what we do. And the stuff that we roll out is a rinse and repeat. I don't want to say it's templated because it's not. We certainly customize what we do for you, but the formula and the ingredients that we put in it are the same every time because it's what works. We have proof that it works. We have evidence and case studies and whatnot. So that's the beauty of being in a niche and why we chose to narrow that down. And then there's a little side note here. Very recently, this year, I've gotten way more involved in agency marketing, agency coaching, or consulting, I guess you could say. I'm an operational coach at Seven Figure Agency, a mastermind organization for agencies of all different shapes and sizes. Very fun group, very great energy over there. and I'm also a fractional COO over there as well. So just another level up above coaching. So like instead of coaching, I'll actually come in and do it for you. All right. So this year I've done a little bit of that too, and it's been very fulfilling and rewarding, and learned a lot as well from being in the mix and seeing what other agencies are doing. So I know I said I keep it short, but that is the short version.
Very nice, Aiden. And having that experience within operations, especially maybe even looking at other marketing companies and consulting them, but then also looking at it more from a perspective of when you work with some of the green industry companies, is there a process or different things operationally that companies need to have in place before they look even for either marketing in their own means and their own efforts, or even just working with a marketing agency?
Yeah, I think it's really the biggest that I run into, the biggest issue, or I guess it's not really even an issue depending on how you look at it, but the biggest boundary that I come across is this ideology that a business doesn't need marketing, right? Or oh, I've never needed it before, I don't need it now, or it doesn't work, or X, Y, and Z. So it's a mindset thing, right? And until you're able to jump over that hurdle and say, okay, this is very simple and black and white. I want to grow my business. The rate that my business is growing is not satisfactory enough. I'm sure you're growing your business without marketing. Great, you should be. If you weren't, you would be out of business, right? Now, then the question becomes, how do I grow more? How do I grow faster, quicker, and grow in a way that is not sacrificing my core values as a business owner? I don't want to take on bad clients and bad customers and bid cheaper. But if I want to grow at the rate I want to, I'm going to have to sacrifice. That's why I say no, 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 no. You don't need to do that. You just need to understand that you won't get there without marketing efforts. And marketing efforts is just a tangible thing. I'm going to run Google ads, or I'm going to run Facebook ads, or I'm going to get door hangers and put them out in neighborhoods. These are tangible efforts that can be measured, right? You cannot measure word of mouth to a degree, or organic growth cannot be measured, therefore it cannot be multiplied, and you cannot project your growth. If I put 5 grand into door hangers and I can track specifically that it makes me 50 grand, I'm gonna go put another 20 grand into door hangers, right? Because it makes me money at the rate that I want to grow. Now, unfortunately, door hangers are a bit more difficult to track, right? It's not as easy to do that. And so that's why digital is so important, because you can track and measure almost every aspect of it. And I can tell you exactly what you made on your investment and where it came from and how many bad leads you got, how many good leads you got, where they're at, the call recordings, all of it. Right? So it's like, again, starting with the mindset, I want to grow at a faster rate than I'm currently growing. You need marketing. And most people, for whatever reason, cannot accept that. Maybe it's because they see their peers in these Facebook groups and they're like, oh, I've been around for 57 years and I've never needed to market to grow my business, right? But the reality is they're still a solo operator and they have different ambitions and goals than you do. So stop letting them determine your decisions when you live a completely different life in a different area, in a different era, in a different age, right? And you have different ambitions. That's the biggest thing. If you want to be the solo guy and go with word of mouth, steady growth, lovely. That's probably way easier and more profitable, less headache, right? But if you're the dude who wants 10 mil and beyond, like me, you cannot take the advice from these people with different dreams and ambitions. At least at a higher priority than your own advice to you. Does that make sense, Joe?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good. I think people should be modeling their business off of companies that are are currently ones that maybe they look up to, right? Or, like even like the top 100 landscape companies. Not to say that everyone's goal is to be top 100, but I would probably bet that a lot of them don't rely on word of mouth, right? So they have a lot of these things systematized and utilizing marketing. And one of the things you had mentioned, Aiden, earlier on was that your niche is the green industry. But when you're working with green industry companies, I guess what are your thoughts on that? Do you find that companies are better off if they niche and maybe specialize in a specific service line or a few, or I guess what are your thoughts with that? And more from the perspective of, I guess, being able to kind of market for those services as well.
That's a great question. So how I would differentiate this, I always like to start with perspective, and in my experience, because that's the only thing I know is my experience. That's the only thing I know for sure, for true. And so with us, we did niche into an industry of landscaping. However, the services that we offer are all inclusive. So they're everything. So we do your brand development, your Google ads, your Facebook ads, your custom website, your SEO. We manage your reviews. We do your social media content. We manage the tracking. A very long list of services we offer because it is valuable to our consumer, right? But we did narrow our audience to a specific uh industry because the nature of my business requires me to understand all the nuance of your business. And so if I'm working with a doctor, a lawyer, a landscaper, a car salesman, there's a very different nuances. And I would never be able to build a business with merit and with, well, I guess that's not a great word to use, with confidence that I'm delivering a product at a high level without understanding the nuances. Right, so that's why we went to a niche. The nature of the landscaping business industry, I don't really know that you need to narrow your audience down. I suppose that pre-qualification is good, and you might consider that narrowing your audience. Absolutely, right? Like, can they even afford your services to begin with? That's the first thing to pre-qualify. Are they do they have proper expectations of your projects and your timelines? And oh, by the way, here's some potential upsells where if something goes wrong here, we may have to go to plan B and do this. That's all very important when it comes to narrowing down your audience and pre-qualifying. But it's very different from niching, right? So I don't necessarily recommend that a local service business niches down, but I do recommend that you offer every service or deliverable that you possibly can, in order to give your customer value. Otherwise, they still need the service, right? They're gonna find someone else to do it. Like irrigation, for example. Let's say you do everything but irrigation, and this client pays you, I don't know, 500 a month to maintain everything and do X, Y, and Z. Great client, but you don't do irrigation. So they look for a new client, a new business to do irrigation services for them, right? And then all of a sudden, they're moving their entire lawn needs and landscape needs over to them because they did their irrigation and they went under one roof. So you have to be very careful not to isolate yourself into one service. That is, unless all you care about is one off projects, right? Installs, yada, yada, yada. But I think the great businesses are good at being in the middle. Lawn maintenance sucks by itself, right? I think everybody can understand that by now. But when you do other services and upsells, lawn maintenance is a phenomenal way to upsell because you have a trust with your customer now, right? And now when you give them that $15,000 quote for a retaining wall, they're way more inclined to accept because they know you, right? But that's because your foot in the door. So there's a lot of different angles to look at it from.
Very nice. Yeah, and you touched on pre-qualification. So what kind of techniques do you think companies can go through to pre-qualify some of their customers? Is there specific web forms that can be filled out, or do you think a lot of this should just be within a phone conversation? Or I guess what do you kind of see as advice around that?
Yeah, that's another good question. My preferred method to building anything is always reverse engineering. Okay, and so what do I want? What kind of leads do I want? What kind of clients do I want? Really, that's what ultimately it gets to, right? Because you want your leads to turn into a client. So what kind of client do I want? And list down all of those things. I want my client to be uh, able to afford my service, obviously. So they need to make a certain amount of revenue. I want them to have these expectations. I want them to have a family because they care about the property more, to have kids, right? This is just some examples. And then once you have these uh, pre-qualification standards in place, you just build that into the way you speak with your leads. Put it into a web capture form on your website for sure. Usually it's more effective over the phone. Most customers are going to call you, or prospects are going to call you because they want quick answers in this industry. And you're going to need somewhat of a script and not really a script, but like a method and a flow that you follow, right? Because the ultimate question that everybody wants to know is what is your budget, right? You're going to say, okay, Mr. Prospect, what's your budget for this outdoor build? They're not going to tell you their budget, bro. Like, no matter what you do, they're just not. So, a more effective approach in order to pre qualify is say, hey, Mr. Prospect, we recently just did, in the past 3 months, maybe 5 to 10 outdoor build projects just like yours, just like what you're requesting. And the range was about 15 to 45K. I know that's a very vast number, right? But I'm just trying to give you a range of expectation on the type of work that we do and what the cost is potentially going to be. How does that sound to you? Right? So you're no longer asking them for the budget. You're just asking them to confirm whether you are the right fit for them or not.
That's a great point. It's kind of keeping it general, but at the same time giving them an idea of, okay, what is the ballpark here? So that way, you don't waste anyone else's time, either your time or their time, when their expectations don't really match kind of the reality of some maybe the costs that are really involved with some of these projects.
Yeah, Joe, exactly. And it all starts with you have to understand your own expectations, right? Like you have to have your own standards, your own values, your core values, your type of customer that you want. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to pre-qualify because you don't even know what you want. You're just taking every lead that you get and accepting every request for a quote. And honestly, that's not a business. That's just a
Yeah.
yes man, right? Going around doing whatever people tell you or need you for. And it's like, if that's what you want to do, great. But very difficult to build a systematic business around that. I would argue that it's impossible to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you had mentioned some of the general numbers, like in an example for pre-qualification phone call. Um, but when companies are looking for marketing, right, and they're looking to grow, maybe their company is 500,000 revenue right now, their goal is to be at 1 million, and they reach out to a marketing agency, or maybe they're looking into things internally. I guess maybe starting off with just them speaking with with you, Aiden, in regard to, I guess, what do you see as a good return on investment in regard to marketing spend?
That's a great question. Let me let me give the best answer that I have. So first of all, whenever you invest into anything, you are making an investment because you want a return. Obviously, right? Otherwise, it's charity. And so, okay, if I invest into this, what is the method that I'm using to measure my return? Joe, if I give you a grand and tell you to flip it in 6 months, and then in 6 months you come back and say, "Hey, Aiden, I flipped it into 5 grand," and I go, "Joe, where do you get that from?" And you're like, "Well, your yearly revenue has increased by 5 grand." Like, Joe, like, you can't tell me that you made that for me for certainty. And then you're like, well, Aiden, you can't prove that I didn't make it to you for you for certainty, right? And so it's a ludicrous idea that you invest into a marketing agency or person or whoever, and then Alexa, stop. I apologize.
It's all good.
And then invest with somebody, and then at the end of the year, but oh, my revenue grew, therefore this person helped me. Or the opposite side, my revenue decreased, therefore it's their fault. That doesn't make any sense. You need a way to measure and track the specific uh, ups and downs of your revenue. And so what we do in order to combat this is we are tracking phone numbers that capture every lead that we get for you, and it will show the source. So did it come from your website? Did it come from your Google Ads? Did it come from your Facebook? Did it come from your Facebook ads? 7 different platforms that we want to know where it came from. And guess what? If you get a lead and it doesn't show up in this tool, it means that we did not get it for you because they didn't call one of our tracking numbers. They're probably word of mouth or they saw your trucks or whatever. We don't want credit for that. That's very unethical to want credit for that, right? And now that we have leads and attribution, we're able to attribute values to those leads. So sales value, quote value, is it spam? Is it qualified? Right? Did we sell them 4 different times? And so the way you do that is, you look at your invoicing tool like QuickBooks and you match it up to your lead tracking tool and go, oh, I sold Susie for 18 grand last week. Let me go search for that phone number in the lead tracking tool. Oh, it's in there. Great. Then you add the value and you update it. And that way, Aiden got you that lead. Right? That's a manual way to do it. There's more automations and AI and other ways to do that nowadays, but that is what ultimately tells you if you have a good ROI or not. Because this is tangible data that is indisputable, right? And this also shows me, let's take the worst case scenario. Client is doing horrible. They lost 30% this year. If I go in my tool and show them that we made them a 15x ROI on their investment, that means we did an amazing job for them. And without us, their business would be done, over, right? Or let's say we're not making them any money, zero ROI. But I go into their lead tracking system and see that they haven't answered 8 out of the last 10 phone calls. Whose fault is that? Like, what do you want me to do? Answer the phone and sell it for you too? So this creates ultimate transparency and accountability for both parties. And unless you have that, it's just a snake oil game. You're just, you don't know what you're getting. You're just putting blind faith into something and you're going to get screwed over, right? It's like kind of going into a marriage without knowing who you're marrying. You don't know their core values, what they want out of life. Do they do drugs? Right? Like, if you don't have these ultimate transparent environments in place, you're in for a rude awakening. I think that goes with anything in life, right? So, especially your marketing and your revenue and your business. This is super important. What are your thoughts on that, Joe?
No, I think that that's great. I think even you had mentioned using 7 different platforms. I think having that diversification, it comes in handy, especially, because there's a lot of things that change within some of the social media platforms, and you would know a lot better than I, Aiden. But I think it's good to be able to have multiple different areas, just as a company shouldn't specialize just in word of mouth, because in a downturn, they're probably going to be the ones that are most affected versus a company that has a lot of different options. And, I'd say even on the recruiting side and, other aspects of the company, trying to put yourself in a position where you're not overly reliant on one specific source, I think is good to reduce risk at the end of the day too.
Yeah,
But and
completely.
even going back to when you initially spoke about Eden, in regard to the operation side of the company and making sure that that can support the marketing efforts, it's nice that you're able to see, okay, how many times was the phone picked up? Because I think that's something that a lot of people know in the industry. The unfortunate aspect, I think, it can get very busy at times, but I think it's great to be able to prioritize things like answering the phone and just keeping the basics up,
Yeah.
as you scale the company. Um, but I guess how often do you see stuff like that happening, or to not not answering the phone, or maybe just, I guess, the holes in the sales process?
Well, every day. That's why we built these systems so we can point them out
Yeah.
and identify them. Right? And that goes back to the whole reverse engineering thing. What do I want from a client? I want a client that's going to be a good business owner. If I position them for success, they will take it and run with it. Okay, what does that look like? Well, answering the phone, selling the lead, following up with the lead, knowing how to price, right? Like the being on time in our meetings, and then reverse engineering that end result of what we want. And not only does that go into how we pre-qualify our prospects and leads, but it goes into our business model too. Every month, how do we track and see if what we're doing is successful? Right. So it's just so crucial to know the end point that you want, the end result that you want, the utopia, and then work backwards, right? And you're never going to be perfect, but when you have a vision, a clear vision of a utopia, it's kind of like the thing with God and religion and faith, right? Nobody else is ever going to be Jesus Christ, but I can strive to be, right? I can strive to be perfect, even though I know I never will be. I would rather try to be the best that we can in business instead of just submitting to, oh, it's whatever, it's chaos, it's going to be this way forever, and it's not my fault, right? No, if I can help it, it's going to be taken care of, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I urge people to take notes right now and consider utilizing green marketing for just marketing services in general, and leverage all of the time and energy and experience that Aiden and his team have, because it's not worth, and this goes not just for marketing but other aspects of the company. And as you scale your company, you're going to want to work with people that have an expertise in that specific area within business. Maybe if it's a consultant to help out with human resources, or maybe there's some certain legal issues or accounting outsourcing, different things like that. I think it's important to work with people that have seen, not only some of the good stuff, right, but have seen some of the bad, and can kind of guide you away from some of these things, right? Because I think sometimes it's hard as a business owner and as a green industry professional. You're kind of, maybe you're putting out fires, right? Or maybe there's things that come up in the business, but it's good to be able to have resources and people that you work with, where you can, see some of this data, right? And you don't have to do any work in the back end and try to, you know, even just the fact of tying all these different platforms to the different phone, and then being able to see that data. which is has almost has nothing to do with even getting the lead from the social media
Right.
platform, but that's enormous value in itself because then that allows you to focus on, things that are producing the most leads, right? So then you're in essence saving money while you're setting up that process. So I I think it's just something that makes sense, and I think your company's only going to grow as much as kind of your department that is performing least, if that makes
Right.
sense. So if you're trying to grow and you're really good at recruiting and you really know your numbers well, but you haven't set up that marketing foundation, your company's only going to grow up until that amount,
Mhm.
right? So I think you really need to look at your company from and that's what we kind of urge, to look at it from a little bit of a different perspective. And um, I think Aiden, in regards to profitability, this is Cycle CPA podcast, so would love to kind of hear your thoughts and kind of what you're seeing in the industry. But I guess starting off with a company that maybe is not necessarily making much profit, what do you recommend for them to kind of do at this point?
Well, get serious or your company will die. I mean, that's the fundamentals in black and white of business, right? Like your company needs to make money and profits to survive. And that's not like a greedy thing, like, oh, I want to hoard all the money in the world, right? Like, no, your company needs to make money to afford to pay your people well, to buy the right equipment in order to fulfill a service at a high level. And you have a family, most likely, right? Your kids are going to want to go to college, or you are going to want them to go to college, right? Like, there's things in life that we need. So, this nonsense of like profit not being the number one priority is just an ideology of it just doesn't play out very well, right? And that's coming from somebody who checks their bank account like maybe like once a month, if even that. I do not care, right? I don't care about what I'm making. And it's horrible. And my CFO yells at me all the time. He's like, "How did you not see this in the statement?" And I'm like, "I just don't care. I love what I do, right? I'll let you handle that." But he does send me a report that I look over very carefully, and I know our margins, I know our profits down to the percentile. And the reason why I know all that is for you, the client, for you, my employee, and for you, the prospect who wants to know what the standards are. I don't know it for me. Of course, I know it for me, like at a lower level, but ultimately, I know the standards and the profits for you, right? And so, taking this and putting it to your shoes a bit better. If you don't know your profits, then I mean, again, you're about to be on deathbed. Okay, you're sick. You're very sick. You need to get it fixed right away. Take the pill or whatever. Hire Joe, right? Like take the medication and get better. Okay, now you know. Okay, we're not profitable. I know my numbers. We're sinking ship. Great. Now you're able to build a solution. Now you're able to fix the numbers. You're able to get better quoting formulations, right? You can tell your landscape crew, hey, whenever you guys quote from now on, this is the new formula that you utilize. Here's the new upsells. Hey guys, we know that we're going to be losing on every single lawn maintenance account that we have. So that's why we need to upsell them all, right? In order to severely profit. But you don't know any of this stuff if you don't know your profits or your numbers or your expenses, right? Or your taxes or any of that. So it's all like a very strategic chess piece game that you play. And if you don't know what the different chess pieces do, you're just moving stuff around on the board. And then people like me and Joe and the top landscaping dogs are going to crush it. And you're going to be like, oh, woe is me. And posting in Facebook groups about how you quote, right? No offense to those people whatsoever. We all start somewhere, but we all end somewhere too. So just make sure that you end giving it your all and getting really serious about your business. That's what I would say to
Absolutely.
that, Joe.
Yeah, no, awesome stuff. And yeah, I think it comes down to it. Marketing is not going to be that thing that will fix your company, right? I think it's part of the puzzle, right? And um, I think the other point too is don't scale an unprofitable operation. You know,
Mm,
if your company's at full capacity and you're unprofitable, getting more clients is not going to help.
mhm.
You know, so I think making sure that that foundation is set. Um, now, when companies are looking
But
for
also, Joe, if I could add on real quick,
yeah,
I hear a lot of people say that, and it's used as like a. I know this is not how you intended it, but
yeah,
it's often used as like people are hindered by that, right? They're like, "Oh, I don't want to start because I'm not foundationally structured yet," and it's like you're never going to be perfectly well fit and structured, even when you are marketing and doing all those things. You just need to sit down with people like Joe, the expert. You need to sit down with the expert. That's Joe with numbers. That's me with marketing. That's whoever for whatever. Sit down with that person and get a plan, and then you're good. Because if you are who you say you are, you will execute on that plan, and everything will be good. Because an expert who goes through this every day helps you build the plan. But if you're not who you say you are and you're a phony, you're going to make excuses and the plan will not get executed on and then you will fail. That's as
yeah,
simple as it is. So I just wanted to point out real quickly, don't use the excuse guys of like, oh my foundation and I need to hire more people. I have people that tell me that every year and they've been saying it for 4 or 5 years. And they're in the same exact spot they were 5 years ago.
yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree, Aiden, and I think it's sometimes if you want things to change in your company, you have to actually change things. You know, it's not gonna,
Yeah.
uh, you know, I think it's unfortunate sometimes. Maybe whether it's mindset or maybe certain beliefs about the market or whatever it is. I think companies trying to get out of that rut, right? Like what you mentioned, Ian, kind of doing the same thing for
Hmm.
3 or 4 years. So, um, but
A hamster wheel.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, for companies that are looking for marketing agencies, right? Uh, what should they look for within a marketing company? When they're really looking to grow their company and look for
Yep.
different options.
Yeah. I have a very clear checklist for this of criteria. So, and this is going to sound biased because I check most of these boxes with my agency, and you can take it as you will. But in my humble opinion, I believe that if you're hiring a marketing agency and you're a local service provider, whether that's HVAC or landscaping, right? Like a local service provider, I think that you need a niche agency, an agency that knows all the nuances, ins and outs. And just because an agency says they are in this agency doesn't make them one. So ask them questions that they should know about the niche. Hey guys, when does aeration occur in my state? Right? If they don't know the answer to that, they might not be in this agency. And they're just trying to sell you. So that's number one. Number two is uh success stories, evidence of success, real stone cold success via what I mentioned earlier, like a tracking system, lead tracking, different sources, revenue, sales that are attributed to us specifically, not looking at your year over year growth and say, oh hey, yeah, Mr. Client, we would love to work with you. You know, we're a landscaping agency. Here's 7 other businesses that we've helped grow. Here's their year over year statements where they went from 700,000 to 800,000 and then they went from 1.2 to 1.4. That is not proving anything other than that business grew. They should have been growing without you in the first place. So, like, you have to be careful about all these things, right? Be critical thinking. So, niche, a real niche agency, an agency that can show you real results, not just a good looking website, right? Like, how much money are you making people? Show me the average ROI. If you don't have that, I don't believe in you. I don't give you that level of faith in order to take over my marketing, right? I'm not going to spend 50K a year plus in blind faith. That should be your mindset, right? And then let's see what else we got here. Um, we covered tracking, we covered niche. I think that another good indicator is like, what are they doing for you? Are they just building you a website? Is that it? Because if so, then they're probably not going to make you the money that you're looking for. But
Yeah.
I guess that really goes back to like, what's their ROI showing? I mean, those are pretty just simple, man. Really simple, like fundamentals of making this decision. I wouldn't recommend a freelancer. I mean, usually, at our agency, we have 11 people full time. We have 4 departments. Each department has a department lead who is a expert in what they do. They do nothing else but Google Ads. That's all they do. That's all they dedicated their lives to. So please tell me how a single freelancer is going to do all different 8 types of these marketings for you and be the expert in all of them, right? They're not. So that's another one. Um, I think we'll keep it simple and just leave it to that, Joe.
No, those are great points.
I
And
just think people get too excited and sold on snake oil and empty promises of, oh, I'll get you number 1 on Google, or oh, I'll build your website for $400, and they
yeah,
like that because it's cheap, right? And they're like, yeah, I got a website now, but it it doesn't resolve the issue, and so stop
yeah,
falling for vaporware. Like, and I don't mean to cut you off of this, but it's just like so funny how everywhere else in life we're willing to call bullshit. I'm sorry, I don't know if cussing is allowed, but we're willing to call a spade when we date, when we have friends, right? When we're in friend groups, when we're on social media, especially, we're very quick to call a spade a spade. But when we're making a massive investment into our business, we just want to believe whatever they tell us because, like, they're this almighty guru and it's cheap, so whatever, go
yeah,
with it.
yeah. No, I think it's important to be careful, and um, I think those are great points, Aiden. And I think ultimately, like what you mentioned, companies or freelancers that can make a website or that can do a Google ad campaign or do these different aspects of it, I think can be useful to a certain degree, right? But at the end of the day, what really matters is that ROI and what that end result is, right? And I think from a long-term perspective, if you're looking to build a company where you're going to be improving on it year after year, right? You're going to want to look for a solution that really kind of takes care of as many aspects of that marketing as possible, at the end of the day. Because I think you know a company that just posts something on Facebook or whatever it is, I think instead, I think focusing more on that ROI perspective. So I totally agree with you, Aiden. And any other comments or anything else you'd like to share with the community?
Yeah, I would say stop looking for, another point to add on here is like stop looking for a website builder or an SEO or a Google ad. Get me on Google. Who's going to get me on Google? Look for someone who is going to help you grow your business.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter if they have this magical like button that they press and it grows your business. Great, let them do that. I don't care if it's Google, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. Don't look at it that way because the reality is you don't know how to judge the success of any of that. You don't know what a good website is or what good Google ads are. You just know whether you're making money or not. So look for someone, an agency, a freelancer, whoever, who is committed to growing your business, and you're both on the same page that, hey, our marriage here is reliant on you growing my business and being able to prove that. I don't care what the impressions say, or the engagements, or the comments, or the website traffic, or the cost per lead. I don't care about any of that. So I think I wanted to just wrap that topic up with that point. Um, Joe, I don't know. I mean, we could talk forever. There's lots that we could cover
Yeah,
here. You know,
absolutely.
I think it's just you can probably tell from my approach on this podcast, but I just want to encourage people to to just get serious about their business and treat it like that and to decide like what you're doing. Don't be on the fence, right? Either shit or get off the pot kind of mentality.
Yeah,
Another curse word. I hope that's okay, Joe.
it's all good.
But seriously, man, like you need to decide what you want to do, what your ambitions are, reverse engineer everything that you do around that, right? And it's just I just get tired of I guess it's because I'm in Facebook groups a lot, all the niche industry groups, and it's mostly people who are solo operator and they're doing under 50K a year, and it's amazing if that's what they want, but at the same time they're shouting about oh, like I run a business and I've been doing this for X, Y, and Z, and I don't need marketing, and right, like it's just no one's being truthful with themselves, and it's causing everybody else in the network to get the wrong impression because you are who you surround yourself with, right? That's a huge point, and so decide: do I want to just be a small company doing under 400K, profiting 50% a year? Phenomenal. Then do that. But don't complain about growth and all this other stuff, right? And then on the flip side, if you want to grow massively to 10 mil a year and be a huge monster in the industry, don't complain about having to invest money into it. That doesn't just happen, right? And even if you do invest money into it, if you don't do it right, it still won't happen. So you just gotta have the right mindset about all this and the right approach and the right path and utilizing and leveraging resources like you and me and your peers. Like you said, other successful companies that you look up to. I mean, that's severely underrated. I I joined the agency, the seven-figure agency mastermind group that I referred to earlier. All different shapes and sizes of agency owners, and they've helped me almost triple my business just from talking to these people. They didn't do anything for me. I'm just surrounded by greatness. I see the goalpost. I'm like, oh, if this guy can do it, I can do it too. There's hope. Here's how this guy tackled that. I'm going to change it up a little bit and do it my way and make it work my way. Right? It's just, you gotta have the right people in your life too. Anyways, that's a long winded way of saying, cut the BS, get serious about what you're going to do, and surround yourself with people who will help you do it. Not your mom who tells you, that you're a failure and this and that, right? It's like, it's cool with your mom, but she's not gonna don't allow her to change your future, right? Like be with people like Joe who's gonna tell you, hey man, your numbers are crap, but you can do this. Tons of companies do this every day. We help them. Let us help you too. And you can do it.
Yeah.
And nothing been done before that other people haven't done. Right? Like if it's been done once, you can do it too. And for those of you who don't know me, I don't know if it's gonna be audio or video, right? But I'm severely physically disabled. I hear all the time, oh man, you inspired me because if you're doing it, I can do it too, and this and that. And that doesn't cross my mind ever, but it's true to them. So it must be true in the reality, right? So if
Yeah.
it's been done before, you can do it and you should do it. So that's how I'll wrap it up, Joe. Thanks for the opportunity, brother. It was great to be on here with you again. Anything else that you want to ask me before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you taking the time here. Know you're a super busy guy, and um, I guess what's the best way people can reach out to you if they have any questions?
Yeah. Well, you can reach out to Joe. Joe has all my info. But
Yeah,
my name's Aiden Silvers. You can find me on Facebook. I'm the dude in the wheelchair, so not very hard to find. Um, you can find us at Green Marketing FL for Florida, greenmarketingfl.com. Yeah, I mean, just look us up and get in touch. We're a marketing agency, so we're on the internet. Go figure. Pretty easy to find and get in touch with, as you should be. And I'm very happy to, have an open door policy. So happy to chat with you. Happy to help. I help people. I mean, 90% of the people that I talk to, we don't even work with. I just help them, right? I help them grow. I give them ideas and PDFs and checklists, and here's what you do. Go do it. So
awesome
that's
stuff, Ian.
yeah, there you go.
Well, no, thank you very much for joining us here. I enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, we'll definitely have you on again in the future for sure. Right?
Thank you, Joe.